The house stood at the end of the street, its presence casting a long shadow over the neighborhood. It was a decaying relic of a bygone era, with weathered gray shingles and windows that seemed to stare blankly into the abyss. The locals whispered about its dark history, a tale of tragedy and malevolence that had driven away every previous owner. Curiosity and a touch of bravado led me to the doorstep of the infamous house. The wind howled, carrying with it a faint whisper that seemed to beckon me inside. Against my better judgment, I pushed open the creaking front door, its hinges groaning in protest. The air inside was heavy with an oppressive silence. Dust motes danced in the dim light, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I hesitated at the threshold, feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. As I stepped further into the house, a chill seemed to seep into my bones, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. The hallway stretched ahead of me, doors lining both sides. With a mixture of apprehension and morbid curiosity, I pushed open the nearest door. The room beyond was shrouded in darkness, save for the pale moonlight filtering through the cracked window panes. As my eyes adjusted, I realized the room was filled with antique furniture, draped in dusty white sheets that billowed like ghosts in the wind. A shiver ran down my spine as I heard a faint whisper, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Get out." The word hung in the air like a chilling warning. I spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but the room was empty save for me. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. It was as if an invisible force held me captive, compelling me to explore further. I moved down the hallway, my footsteps echoing eerily in the silence. The air grew colder with each step, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me. I pushed open another door, revealing a grand parlor that seemed frozen in time. A grand piano stood against one wall, its keys yellowed with age. A layer of dust covered every surface, save for a single chair placed by the window. My gaze was drawn to a sepia-toned photograph on the wall, a family portrait. Their smiles seemed hauntingly genuine, and yet, there was a sorrow that lingered in their eyes. I reached out to touch the photograph, and the instant my fingers made contact, a gust of wind swept through the room. The door slammed shut behind me, the loud noise causing me to jump. My heart raced as I turned to the door, only to find that the handle wouldn't budge. Panic set in, and I pounded on the door, calling out for help. But my cries seemed to be swallowed by the thick walls. The room grew darker, the shadows deepening as if they were alive. The air felt heavy, as though I were being suffocated by an unseen presence. Desperation gnawed at me as I scanned the room for an escape route. My eyes fell on the window, and with a surge of adrenaline, I rushed toward it and threw it open. But instead of the night air, I was met with a swirling void of darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was as if the house itself had no connection to the outside world. Fear clutched at my chest as I realized I was trapped in a nightmarish realm, a place that defied logic and reason. I turned back to the room, and my breath caught in my throat. The furniture was no longer draped in sheets, instead, they were inhabited by shadowy figures that writhed and twisted like tortured souls. The piano's keys began to play on their own, emitting a haunting melody that seemed to echo through the very walls of the house. As I backed away, a voice whispered in my ear, its words chilling me to the bone. "You should not have come here." I spun around, my heart racing, but there was no one there. The darkness seemed to press in on me, suffocating and relentless. Every instinct screamed at me to escape, to run far away from this accursed place. But it was as if the house itself held me in its grasp, a prisoner to its malevolent power. I stumbled through the parlor, my breath ragged, my mind unraveling as the horrors around me intensified. The walls seemed to pulse with a sickening rhythm, the floorboards creaking under the weight of unseen footsteps. Faces contorted with agony appeared in the walls, their anguished expressions frozen in a never-ending torment. The whispering grew louder, a cacophony of voices that seemed to chant in unison, a chilling litany of despair. In a final surge of determination, I sprinted through the house, ignoring the tormenting sights and sounds that assailed me. The hallway stretched endlessly, the walls closing in on me as if to trap me forever. But then, just as I thought I was lost in an eternal nightmare, a faint glimmer of light appeared ahead. I rushed toward it, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and desperation. The light grew brighter, blinding in its intensity. And then, with a sudden jolt, I was thrust back into reality, standing outside the house once more, my body covered in cold sweat. The house loomed before me, unchanged, but there was no longer a pull to enter its dark depths. The sun was beginning to rise, its warm rays banishing the shadows that had haunted me. As I stumbled away from the house, I knew that I had escaped its clutches, that I had survived its malevolent grasp. But the memory of that night would forever haunt me, a reminder of the darkness that exists just beyond the edges of our reality. And though I would never fully understand the horrors I had experienced, I knew one thing for certain: that house was a place of unspeakable evil, a place that should never have been entered, a place that would forever live on in my nightmares.